here, because I can't see everything. Okay, are we ready? We are. Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the City of Salem Bond Oversight Committee for August 28th, 2025. Do a little roll call. I'm Julie Hoy, the mayor. Linda Nishioka, City Councilor, Ward 2.
Bob Wright, public member. And Karen, community member.
Great. Is Councilor Brown going to join? No. No? Okay, and I'll tell you, is he here? Alternate? Okay, but we still have. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Do we have a motion for approval of the July 24th, 2025 meeting minutes? I so move.
Second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public comment. I see you have Lynn Takata signed up. Welcome. Thanks for being here. It's always nice to see you. You want to go right ahead?
Thank you. I'm trying to get out of the advocacy business and trying to be an artist, but there's some things that are important. So I was here at the October-November meeting, and at that time, there was a number of things discussed, but what I wanted to check in about was there was a $400,000 approval for a flashing light beacon that the Northeast neighbors advocated for at council. And that was in conjunction with the affordable housing project that's being built at 23rd and Central. And that's being, they will begin accepting residents for that development in early 2026. So we're just really interested in the timing for the flashing light beacon because safety was one of our top concerns because the affordable housing unit is family oriented. So we don't know how many children will actually be there, but D Street has a blind spot. There have been people hit on D and the safety aspect was really important. So I wanted to try to get feedback on that, if it's possible or know who to talk to. I don't know how the bond projects, it was funded through the bond. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention was, and I don't know how to address it, it's a safety thing again. I know that part of the bond was for a sidewalk that was discussed at the October-November meeting where the proposed sidewalk is on the street and our neighborhood association did not vote either way on it, but I've since talked to 3 people. One has a blind sister, the other 2 are in wheelchairs, and they have a strong interest in having that project because Inglewood Park is not accessible. There's no curb cut. And it's like the lifelong dream of one of my neighbors who's caring for her invalid mother-in-law. The mother-in-law wants to be able to walk to Inglewood Park. That's her lifelong dream. I would like to see that happen for her. So we don't want the people to have to file an ADA complaint against the city, which some of those residents are ready to do. So I'm just here to give you a heads up that, you know, that project is a route to school, it's a route to the park. And whether our neighborhood association approves it or not, you've got hundreds of people that have advocated for, well, hundreds of people that could be affected, you know, by not having a sidewalk there. And so I'm not speaking on behalf of the neighborhood association, but I'm not sure who to contact because I have the contacts for the people that are either blind or in wheelchairs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if that's the street I was thinking about, I heard there was one in your neighborhood that the neighborhood association didn't vote yes on. I don't know if they voted at all, but is that the street you were suggesting?
Correct. We did not vote on it. The chair did not allow a vote at the meeting. We'll be voting on it in September. But regardless, there, you know, I've surveyed that street. It's 2 blocks. Every house on the side of the street where they're proposing no parking has parking or a garage. So it's just 1 out of 10 houses. and I've gone down that street every day this summer. There's been a maximum of five cars parked on the 2 blocks. And so it's not, the neighbors, people feel they have a right to park in front of their house, which we know they don't. And it's understandable, everyone would like to park in front of their house, but there was only one day this whole summer when there was a problem with parking, which was at Englewood Forest Festival. So my perspective is we want to respect the rights of all the people who are on wheelchairs and bicycles and strollers and skateboards, and those people should be able to be safe. So, yeah, I believe that's gonna be voted on the September meeting of NEN. But I'm just here to give you a heads up that I have people that will file an EDA complaint if it's not approved.
Appreciate the heads up on that.
Yeah.
As far as the flasher goes, Alan, can you provide an update on that?
Sure, that project is on our agenda to complete. It's one that's kind of getting shoehorned in because of the late add into the overall program. So Rick Barnes and I were just talking this morning about a resource being assigned to that, and I don't know if that will be built out by the time they start accepting applications, but I think our intent is to try to get it constructed next year.
That's wonderful news. May I ask a question? Is that okay? Has the city decided on a location for the flashing light beacon?
We're just getting started on the project, so
Okay.
we're gonna be meeting tomorrow with internal staff. We just kind of discuss the scope of the improvements that are proposed. So we don't have.
We're so grateful, and I never thought when I testified that the council would ever approve it. It was a shock. But safety for, for the families and children, paramount to me. So thank you very much for working on that.
Sorry, we'll put it on our list to come to the neighborhood association.
Thank you.
Give all an update once we have the locations.
That's great news.
I'm sorry, it flashed by me. Could you remind me what specific locations we're talking about? Maybe Brian,
So the flasher is at E and is that
23rd.
23rd? I think it's where the development's happening on the west side of 23rd. There's that development actually, it's a private street that is the public right of way a couple hundred feet west of the intersection of D and 23rd. And the original thought was that would maybe be the place where that flasher would go. People would naturally funnel up that street, but we need to confirm it. It sounds like the staff, so that's where that was. And the street with the sidewalk, I don't specifically remember. Julie Hansen's been working on it. Boyd is in the back of my mind, but I don't know if that's
It's
correct.
called K after Thomas B. K,
Okay,
and it's a little 2-block street that goes from 17th to 19th. But it stops at Englewood Park and just adjacent to the school. So there's no sidewalk on either side of that street.
Anything further on that? Yeah. Anyone else have questions or input? Well, then, thank you again for caring so much about your neighborhood and for showing up on their behalf. It's really noticeable and appreciated, I'm sure. So, and in follow-up, what's the next step? You're gonna, Alan, you'll reach out and figure out when to connect with the neighborhood association?
Yeah, once we have a design a little further down the road, we'll be able to share with them what's coming and a little better idea of the schedule.
Great,
Reach out to the neighborhood chair and get on their agenda.
thank you. Yeah, Linda.
Yes, would this be prep for the flashing beacon and not the sidewalk? Would that be a separate one?
Correct, yeah, the sidewalk issue is part of the bucket projects for missing sidewalks. And so I think our intent is to come back to you all next month with where
An
that,
update?
where that's at and all the public input that's been gathered. So that should give the neighborhood a chance to vote on this particular one.
Okay,
Thank you.
and is the project dependent on the neighborhood association vote?
I don't think so, although it certainly makes it easier if the neighborhood association's in support. But I think the final say is it's brought here to you all, and then the city council will actually, I think, make the final call on the list of improvements that are selected.
For the sidewalks, typically what happens is they'll do their prep work and make their recommendations, and then someone presents it to a neighborhood association or to the neighborhood associations, and I'll do plural, that are affected so that they have an opportunity to put in input. That's typically how it happens, because I know that Nesca just recently had a suggested area and it basically changed, or it looks like it's going to change because of the input from the neighborhood association. So that's typically the process.
And Julie will be here next month with the show.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. You're welcome to hang out with us or,
if there's another meeting where either of those projects are discussed, I know that some of the people who have relatives with disabilities would like to come and just advocate, for their for the sidewalk.
right. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to action items. New items, none. It's time for the management update and information items. Ellen, you gonna go first?
Sure. And no pictures or anything this time, this will just be a quick update. So the bridge rehab project that we brought to you all last month, just an update. So a reminder, there's 4 bridges that we are doing strengthening work on to remove the load restriction that prevents bigger trucks from using them. So those are located, 3 of them on Mill Creek at Liberty, 15th and 17th, and 1 on Pringle Creek at Mission. Probably drive that way, you can see the work going on there. So last time we shared that the Liberty Street Bridge, we were seeing significantly more structural damage and more work and some coordination with existing utilities and rebar that was adding cost, and it looked like if we had that same kind of issue on all 4 bridges that we would go beyond the project contingency. We've gone further in the project now. Both the Liberty Bridge and the 15th Street Bridge are now complete, and we're underway on both the bridge at Mission and at 17th. And the budget picture is looking a little bit better. That we're kind of tracking to be within our original contingency. We still got the authorization from you all to tap the project savings from the 2024 pavement R&R project that we talked about last time. But if all goes the way it's tracking right now, we may not need to do that. So things are looking good. As I mentioned, the 2 bridges are done. The Mission Street Bridge is scheduled to be complete in mid-September. And the 17th Street Bridge is the last one, and that one should be done in early October. So by mid-fall, we should be wrapped up and we'll know for sure exactly where we came out on the budget. But certainly won't be needing to ask for more, and maybe we'll be able to return all those savings. So we'll keep you posted, but just wanted to share the trend there.
Anybody have any questions?
Have you confirmed the 17th Street Bridge, the rebar issue is at present there or no?
Yeah, I think we haven't had any.
We haven't got it now,
So that's kind of the.
But the other 3, it's also, so, and it wasn't pretty consistent across all 3 of them, same issue.
Actually, I think Liberty was really the first one was the worst one. Didn't mean to rhyme that.
Good job.
And the other 2 have not been this.
Okay.
But Mission Street, we're just getting underneath, so we'll see. It sounds like maybe there's a little bit more issues there than there was on 15th and then 17th. We're just.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to the Civic Center. Aaron Kinsey.
Yeah, so I just have a few brief updates to bring to the group. I do have slides, but that's hardly worth, what I have to present is hardly worth the slides, but for the good of the order, I would do it. Anyway, just a brief agenda. I was gonna review the budget and let you know that we did just recently execute the GMP I was here last time we met and there was an update on permitting, so I wanted to bring you guys the latest on that. And then as you may or may not know, we started construction, so I have just a few pictures that kind of represent the work that's occurred to date. So as a reminder, I provided this slide. I think most have seen this before. So just letting you know that the total bond funding for this project is $40,528,000. And that includes the just over $1 million that we took to council for the summer. I can't think of what, July.
Just thinking the spring.
Was it spring? Okay, it's all blending in.
That's right.
Anyway, we, as you recall, we went to council, got some additional funding to include with the project, so that's that 40 million number. And then we have additional city funding of 3 million, so that brings us to a grand total of the 43,528 you see there. Again, the primary focus of the bond is just to hit the requirements, and then the small piece of pie is going to be for other items. So this is just kind of a brief, very high level budget update. So the Hardest Right, the design builder, we had initially executed 3.6 million for their phase 1 and 2 design work. And then their construction is right now is 30,675,000. So that brings us to our GMP, great guaranteed maximum price of 34,303,000. So and just as a reminder, that GMP price does include a contractor contingency within that GMP. It also includes some allowances for tariff increases potentially if we have to dip into that pot. So there is some additional monies in that overall GMP that are included for those occurrences. And then I just have the other kind of big pots that are part of the total 43 million, which is owner costs. Owner costs includes FF&E, the fixtures, furniture, equipment. It includes security purchases, includes AV, visual, the audio visual that's required for the project. Trying to think of the other big pots that are coming up with that. Of course, staff time and permitting is the other one. That's a pretty big chunk of that $4 million. And then consultant costs. Again, we've got owner's rep costs. We have all the various consultants that are required: geotech, archaeological, hazmat. Yeah. So we are currently carrying 1.8 million for contingency in addition to what the contractor has. So we'll continue to watch those dollars as we continue with our expenditures. And as you may recall, several meetings ago, we had a list of priorities that were alternates that we're carrying. And so we still are carrying those. We have the design included in our plans. And so as we get out of some of the risk moving forward, if we wanted to try to address some of those, we may out of our contingency. Any questions on the overall budget and the GMP? Okay, so it's, I would just say, really exciting, complex project. A lot of effort going into that. So it's a huge milestone to be able to have that before us and meet the target value that we've been trying to achieve. So this is the last slide I have. Again, there's not a lot to show. It's currently we're in the demo statement mode. So it's removal of flooring, removal of ceiling tiles, lighting. It'll continue with the HVAC system. The picture on the right, that tubing you're seeing, is part of the abatement process. So I just thought it was kind of a cool picture to kind of show you how that occurs. So in the areas that have hot flooring, primarily the abatement that we're doing is in the floors. It's the not the carpet on top, but the black mastic underneath. They actually create an entire enclosed vacuum area, and as they work in there, the laborers are fully suited up. It looks like the scene from E.T. For those that are old enough to know. Probably some more recent movies that have a similar dress. Anyway, they're in there, and then all of the I'll call it bad air gets exhausted into those tubes and filtered out. And so there's several of those locations throughout the building, so they set up the containment, do the removal, and then we actually have a consultant that goes in and tests the air to give it the thumbs up before they can tear down. And then it's just a kind of a continuous process throughout the building where they set up, tear down, test the air, and then move on. So, yeah, so it's just pretty exciting. As we get more into kind of bigger items of construction, I'll share those pictures as well moving forward. Any thoughts or questions?
I wonder, Aaron, if, when we
Oh,
do it-
permitting.
Yeah, permitting, but I wonder
Sorry.
if when we actually start getting into the meaty stuff, this group wanted to do a tour.
Yeah.
During one of the meetings, maybe we actually walk over and do a tour if they're interested in what.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, after, yeah, no, for sure. That was something that we did on previous projects and we could definitely have that. We'll keep the PP that we need and yeah, when it gets to where we can actually see some activity. I skipped over the permitting slide, and I don't have a slide for it. But it's on the agenda. So just to remind folks, we typically have a third-party reviewer for our structural permit review. There was our third-party reviewer recused himself due to conflict of interest, and so we sent our plans to the state building code officials. And there was some concern about whether that would delay us or what kind of outcome that may have. And so I'm happy to report that the plans have gone through their complete process and their review. In addition to the structural review, all the other normal systems review that we have. We did receive comments back, and as of Monday this week, our design team responded to all those comments, structural included. Now we have basically a 2-week, city and the building officials have a 2-week window to review those to review those responses to their comments. And if there's no issues, we could see a permanent issuance at the end of this 2-week period, unless there are additional comments that are received. So just as a reminder, the building code comment that we got were essentially minor in nature. There was no redesign required. There was no change in strategies. It was primarily, maybe revise some calculations, clarify some notes and plan sheets. And so all of those have been addressed. So where we stand on that.
Any questions?
Aaron, would you, is there gonna be any impact to schedule?
No,
with this review?
no, the structural work is going to occur or start, I should say, end of September, early October. So assuming, even if there was additional comments after this 2 weeks, we would still have another couple of weeks. But some slush in the schedule, so to speak, so.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thank you
Yep.
very much. Now we're moving on to the other Aaron for State Street improvements.
We have more.
Yeah, you did one? You did? In this room?
No.
Okay. Confuses even more.
All right, so he's pulling up a general strip map. Hopefully we can adjust these and then be able to start on one end and kind of walk together. We'll start on. You want to kind of roll that out on the big table as well. You said nobody online, right? Like I said.
This is always one. You may want the business and hospital.
Life size. We have a spot.
Yeah, we need to.
So just kind of walk through high level and then kind of work into details or any questions if there are. So this is the State Street Improvement Project. And the far end down there would be 12th Street. And my end of the life size version would be 17th.
That's bad.
All right, I just can't look out the window.
Keep your frame of reference right here.
So this project will pretty much, new curbs, sidewalks, reconfigure pretty much the entire corridor from 12th to 17th. So this came from a study that was done. Yeah, it's been some time ago, I don't have the exact date.
Since 2000, it's probably
Yeah.
like 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, there's many years in development,
Yes.
finished just before COVID.
So that's where the basis of the concept for the project came from. So we took the work they did and we just began to build upon it. So the consultants have collected a survey to be able to bring the real world stuff to that concept. And this is really the initial cut from that work. One of the things to note maybe is on the far end between 12th and 13th. So the original concept on that end did not really address the bicycle connections between that. So we've taken an initial cut to try to come up with a way to continue that bike path from 13th on to 12th to Promenade, correct? That area. So there's obviously several different ways that can be done, but this was the first idea that seemed most feasible at this point. So I think at this point, we're going to hopefully take that out to the public and get some input on it. One of the other things maybe to note is we flipped the parking and the bike on the rest of the concept. So yeah, I guess maybe backing up to the project itself and the scope. So the change from the existing configuration between 13th and 17th is the road diet. So it's removing one lane of traffic in each direction and adding the bike lanes and the buffer. So it's kind of a big piece from what you see out there today.
Do you mind? I just looked it up. The intent, we call it road development, but the reason was because people wanted the street to be more safe, welcoming for pedestrians and bicycles. So that was the intent. And it accompanies a whole bunch of land use ideas to make it a more inviting, mixed use, pedestrian friendly area. So just to anchor back in the vision from the day, it takes a while for us, as you learned, to get to finding the money to do these things. And so this is one of those things that was adopted by council in 2018, so just before COVID, and long time in planning. I think it originated out of the Nen-Cessna plan. Does that make sense?
It could be.
A combined neighborhood effort to think about how State Street could function for all neighbors.
And that study went all the way down to 25th.
25th, right? So just contextually, what you see is intended to create those impacts. So as you're thinking about design, just checking back against the impact.
Yeah, and there was, like you
It would
said,
be Cessna. It'd be Cessna.
I think it was a combined net assessment plan.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I thought you said Nesca.
Sorry, it was one of the first times we did a joint neighborhood plan, which was really cool to think about instead of isolating one neighborhood. Yeah.
yeah, there still is a lot of variables, like you mentioned, and one of the big outcomes was parking. Parking is a really big desire, especially down in that end where there's a lot of businesses that front it, so, yes.
Two questions.
Yes,
So on your legend, the gold is a proposed driveway, but I see they're basically every existing driveways.
Yes.
So just,
I think we have two colors because there's.
yeah, I saw the existing on the ground.
Yeah.
So I was curious if there was a change there.
We're really not, we haven't got far enough to like say we're proposing changes to driveways yet, but I will point
I see this
it's
one
less
here.
than obvious,
Yeah.
right? So that's got a pending development. Yeah. They're the ones coming to us saying that they need those driveways, the same down there, there's two more just on the side of 13. Sorry, like, yeah. So,
And the other question I had is, I understand the goal bounce, right, for shortening the crosswalk distance. What is the purpose of these two bulkheads if we close these crossings? Do they impede bike traffic? What's the thought there?
So the bikes would come through there similar to a pedestrian. We haven't figured out all those details entirely, of whether they come up onto the bulb out or whether there's a cut through the bulb out. But yes, it would accommodate both the ped and any bike traffic through there for safety.
I think you're thinking, because there isn't a pedestrian
Right,
crossing in this direction.
Right.
So this is the added crossing.
Yeah.
With the idea that there's future redevelopment. And that users going that way would go down to the signal, and users come this way, would go this way, but you know, we still have to make this crossing as well.
The other thing those programs help with is they slow traffic.
Slow traffic, yeah.
What the speed limit?
Speed 30?
Yes, either 30 or 35.
Yeah.
So we're still working through the details, like one of the
big items that comes to my mind is, so you see a lot of parking out here. We haven't figured out how the ADA, so that's parking fits in, especially in this scenario. How do you provide an ADA stall on the bikes on the side of it? It's a little bit easier on the diagonal ones down there. That was a piece that when they did the original study, they didn't get into that detail. We're still trying to figure a lot of that type of stuff.
This concept is pretty similar to what's existing on High Street right now, right? The parking. On the street, on the travel lane side of the bike lane, so if you wanted to see what it
High Street,
looked like.
where?
You're downtown.
Downtown, okay.
Just the block between, I'm sorry, Trade and Ferry. I
Got
think.
it.
Trade and Ferry.
So most of it is on the other side of the angle, but there's a spot where there's parallel parking and that's.
Or Union Street.
Union Street would be on.
Yeah, this design is like, yeah, so I see what you're saying, yeah, that parking. It's always a little disconcerting. For somebody in a vehicle. It's like, is that car stopped or going?
I wanted to follow up on Mike's question about treatment as you're crossing the fold outs for the bikes. Because you're still wrestling with how to do that, is that right?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways.
Well, I wanted to hear what you're thinking about.
Well, so you can make a cut through the bulb out, and keep the bike level. You can bring the bikes up onto the bulb out. Or you can bring them out and around the bulb out and shorten the bulb. So kind of three kind of high level thought process.
Is it accessible for people who are cutting all that?
Well, you'd have to bring the ADA pieces for pedestrians down to be able to cross that level. So you certainly get a lot of different grades.
See this?
That's what's
That
using.
was a side.
Well, have to think a little bit more, take a look at it, to have a real informed opinion. I mean, it's always smoother if there's an easy transition, but you've got pedestrians, you definitely want the bikes to be yielded pedestrians there. So it's certainly secondary. The one place I can think that there's a real big possible question, and maybe there are other spots where we have transitions, but making a transition on 13th, you know, are we, what the treatment is there?
Yeah, with turning, we have the same question or uncertainty down at the promenade, right? So there's an existing driveway there. Do we just shoot them up the driveway, or do we take that tree out and make it a separate bike ramp, if you will, up on the promenade? Yeah.
You'd have to remove this tree or a tree that's there and we just keep that.
Yeah, that tree right there on the end.
Is there cost differences between the three options you have there?
There could be, I don't know if we know that detail yet.
This is still really high level, so this is the first group to get eyes on this.
I mean, we literally finished this maps at the end of the day yesterday,
Wow.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, Eric kind of alluded to it. It looks like there's a lot more design done than there really is, right? So but this gives people something to react to. So I know one of the things on our list, Bob has helped us in the past to get into the details of the bike elements. And so we hope to have that conversation with him and maybe pull a few other folks into it. Aaron mentioned going to the neighborhoods, just try to start vetting through some of those details. I think other questions that will come up are around parking, like you mentioned, driveways, trees, I think will be another hot topic with this project.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into nets, one of the ones that I look at is so we have a bike lane in this stretch where it's a 5-foot bike lane with a 2.5-foot buffer. Yeah, so in other places, we have a 3-foot buffer, something even wider there. My personal preference or concern with that is, if you think about the crown of the street, what it tends to do is push the bike lane into the curb gutter part of it. So ideally, we would of course like a wider bike lane, but I would consider a smaller buffer to move, because the bike's going to tend to want to be on the flattest stretch of the road, and that's going to push them over.
Yeah, that's, I guess, I totally understand what you're saying. I will say, the intent here is this will all be new, most of our
Good.
existing roads.
No crowds.
I'm not saying there won't be,
Right.
I mean, there has to be drainage, but we will hopefully be starting back to where we should be.
Yes, that first 18 inches is the gutter, then that's something that as a cyclist, you're trying to say, nah, that's not comfortable.
And just like, I think we alluded to the high level, right? So this entire end is that special cross section that's actually in the TSP. We've swapped this, that's really all we did. So we didn't really change anything down there. The focus of what we've tried is that section there. That was really undefined. So we went through a lot of iterations, and frankly, very few of them worked. This was really the one that kind of made any sense at all. So.
Well, my reaction here is I would keep the tree. You want cyclists to slow down as they're dealing with a pretty big pedestrian intersection and that transition to the promenade or to cross 12th.
Well,
You're definitely going to slow down.
Yeah, the tricky part was, right, you're bringing him, it's counter
Towards the
towards
trail.
the rail, so you want to force them up onto the promenade because there's really nowhere to go.
But not into the oncoming traffic.
Correct.
Yes.
You can drive on the promenade, right? Yeah, on that around the alley. It is shocking. It always makes me feel like I think I'm doing something right. But that's, I mean, it's probably not possible to change that, but it does seem like a kind of a danger zone. I don't know if anything ever happens there.
I believe that it was to provide business access, so I think there's some businesses that needed access, and that's why it was
That's right, to get into their parking space.
certificate.
There's a strong school of thought, though, that it's good to have people feel uncomfortable because then they're going to pay attention.
Yeah.
And I think the promenade works really well in that regard. And you might be a little surprised to see a motorist or a car coming, but you know it's going slow
Yeah.
because it's impossible to go fast.
It feels wrong.
Yes.
Real Wall Streets like that.
Right.
Feels wrong, driving anywhere.
I have another question or just thought outside the scope of this, but I drive this stretch every day, several times. And I worry, I think more about what happens between 17th and 25th
Yes.
than I do what happens between here and there. Is that, I know that the study, it sounded included all the way to 23rd, 25th. Is there a timeline on, I mean, thank God, it's been how many decades? So I'm probably asking something that can't be answered, but can we anticipate in the next 50 years, maybe it will go all the way to 20?
I mean, I think there'd be great momentum if we get this project done and we go to another bond measurement when the fund is up on this, to show, hey, look what we can continue. Like we just got started, this would be the next phase and try and put it in the bond measure.
Maybe the 2030s.
Okay, I like it. And to Brian's point though, too, you have so many properties that are on the cusp, right? So as this goes in and the development occurs, it's gonna be it's happening simultaneously, so it'll look like.
It's
a
working.
impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a major apartment development. That's what,
I don't know, I just noticed writing that they're driving up and down periodically. I noticed there's a lot that's been leveled and others that are on sale, so I'm not even speaking to development permits, I'm just thinking like so close. And this will really help.
This is not my expertise, but it came to mind when you were talking about the crown of the road and the bike lanes and all that. I'm certain everybody's thinking about drainage. Because water is a problem. It's especially between 17th and
It's very
25th.
steep.
Yes. And the dips, you know,
Those side streets.
they're very significant. I could get airborne if I would pass.
It's similar to mine.
I've been working on it.
I guess the other thing you mentioned, drainage and water, to point out, I talked about. You know, looking into the details of the ADA stalls and something, the other piece is the current stormwater treatment requirements. That wasn't really a piece of the initial study there, which is now a big component in how that fits into this plan. We're still trying to determine what that'll look like as well.
It's turning into a Gilchrist
Yeah.
project.
Which will,
Sometimes, probably like what we did in second street.
So it'll be more green too. We don't see that yet.
It's a lot of stuff and a little bit of space though, right? You know, the trees and the parking. These facilities.
There's a bunch of overhead utilities out here as well. Yeah, it's
it's a very old corridor.
Mhm.
Sometimes. Well, then,
Are there any right of way acquisitions?
there will be.
On both sides.
So the intent with the project like down there, right, so most of those buildings. Are into what was the desired cross section, I mean, I don't think it's the project's intent to try to acquire a foot strip off of all those buildings, but anywhere where there's.
Is this the blue line that you're speaking about?
Yes, that would be the back of the lot, of that cross section that was in TSP.
Yeah, we would not go out and.
Shape
Try to
the
cut
property
off the front of it.
some building, yeah. So generally, I think from 13th to 17th, there's the space to acquire those strips. I believe there's one building somewhere there. Yeah, there's a paper.
Here.
I think that one right
Over
there.
here?
That was extremely close.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we would just jog those around.
And if it ever redeveloped in the future, then. Yeah.
Which one's that?
Yeah, to redesign that if that was the case.
It's more.
Is the auto shop in here?
oh,
Yeah. Seems awfully quiet. Is that empty or going out?
it's not.
Okay, good.
That doesn't go there.
Okay. All right. Wow. Any other thoughts or ideas? Good. Thanks for bringing them back.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Show and tell is always.
Way more fun than put it up on the screen. That was cool.
Yeah. you're showing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And nothing's needed from us on this, right?
No, not right now.
Great. Thank you very
I'll
much.
stick my foot in the door and say, I may bug these guys with some more questions.
Do you want to have your sheet?
Oh, great.
Okay, perfect. That's good.
For copy to the, for grandkids and just.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, up next. Mr. Romanek, in the Parks update.
Again, I'm Rob Romanek. I'm the city's Parks Planning Manager. Great to be here today. Here to talk about two things. One is a playground needs some attention, and I want to discuss that with you today. And then another one is improvements that we are planning to make to McKinney Park. Specifically, I want to talk about the Portland Loo, but there's some other elements of the project I just want to check in on as we look to make the majority of the improvements at McCain Park next summer, but not necessarily install the restrooms. We're not quite ready to do that. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And so a little bit more detail, I'm going to talk about the Crooked House Playground, which is in Bush's Pasture Park, and specifically its its playground safety surfacing, and then again, the McCain improvements. I do want to make a quick note as we talk about playgrounds. I'm anticipating that we're going to be coming back to the committee with an analysis of the other 7 playgrounds that have been identified for bond investment and potentially some other playgrounds, and then kind of giving you a comparison of their current condition. The initial 10 that were funded by the bond funding, we're seeing that maybe they're, as it stands today, some of them may be in better shape than some others that weren't funded. And so we might want to reassess which ones are getting improvements through the bond funds, or potentially we might want to try and do an 11 playground with the same amount of funds. So I'll be coming back for that. But the Crooked House Playground is a time critical issue, so that's why it's here today. Just a little quick photo there. If you, that's one of our first playgrounds that we are redoing with the bond funds. That's Morningside Park in South Salem, and it's looking great, coming along really well. The Crooked House Playground, just some background on it, was it's this iconic play space that's been around for a long time. It's evolved over time. You can see the original playground there was, I think it was largely a handcrafted structure with some play equipment added. Then in 2015, the state obtained a state grant that helped us redo the playground. And then when that happened, we installed rubber tile playground safety surfacing. It's one of 2 playgrounds in our system that have those tile surfacing on it. And then just a sneak preview there. It's not doing well. That tile surfacing is now 10 years old and it is failing. And that is a safety and accessibility concern. So Josh, can you advance me to the next slide there? We are seeing separations of the tile. Some of those are over 2 inches. And then we're seeing some uplifting. Anything over 1/4 inch is a concern from an accessibility perspective. And we are seeing it rapidly degrade over the past 12 months. And that's why I'm here today, because just its condition is really not doing well. Josh, next slide there. So the proposal is to allocate up to $180,000 from the $6 million set aside for playgrounds to resurface with synthetic turf. I have another slide just showing a comparison of the various options that we have for playground safety surfacing. But the turf is something park staff are looking at, and we like what we see there as a solution for this playground specifically. It's also what we're looking at for the redevelopment of the Riverfront Park playground. The 2 really colorful photos there are some nearby parks that use a very specific product called Forever Lawn, and that is what we are looking at for both of those 2 projects here in Salem. And then my last bullet there, the trade-off, so what are we gonna, what about that 180? The proposal there would be to reduce specifically the amount of money available for redoing the Minto Brown Island Park playground. This is a very small playground that's next to a reservable picnic shelter. The park's master plan does call for that to become a nature play space. And as we look at what nature play is a concept where you're using natural materials mixed with some manufactured play equipment, usually to give a more natural kind of nature exploration feel to it. There might be loose parts like branches that kids can make little forts out of, for example. There might be sand and water, so they can really have sand and water play. As we look at some other playgrounds in our region, like for example, Shampooey State Parks has a nature play area, and Slaughter Falls have a nature play area. Those projects were delivered for substantially less money than your typical manufactured playground. They also probably don't last as long, to be frank with you. Wood rots, things fall apart quicker, but the upfront cost is typically less. So if we kind of decide we're going to spend less money on Minto Brown Island Park, I think we could still deliver a great nature playground. It may not last as long, but it's still going to be great. And it's going to be consistent with the parks development plan. Oh, that did not work. I sent a PDF. I don't suppose you have that, Josh. So this is just a matrix showing there are essentially four options for surfacing on the playground. Engineered wood fiber, they look like wood chips, but they're a little bit more than that. And that is not an option for Cricket House playground because of the subgrade under it. If we wanted to convert it back to an engineered wood fiber, it would certainly be the most expensive option. There needs to be a whole depth under the playground where all that wood fiber goes, and typically we have a drainage system, and so we'd be excavating the playground, removing all the equipment, and it would by far be the most expensive option. The other three there are rubber tile, as a rubber tile system like is failing now, a pour in place rubber system like you would see at the Let's All Play playground at the Salem Health facility across the street, and then the synthetic turf. There are pros and cons to all of them. The key takeaways there at the bottom is the engineered wood fiber is cost effective but high maintenance. It does require breaking the playground chips on a regular basis to make sure they're fluffy enough that they have the impact attenuation properties they need to have. The rubber options they're safe, they're accessible, they're pretty durable, they're more expensive up front. And specifically about pour in place, it's really technically complicated installation. It's weather dependent. If it goes wrong, you have a mess. So the pour in place is unattractive to parks because it's just like there's this really short window in the year that it's appropriate to install it. You need a certified installer. They're in high demand, and there just seems there's a lot that can go wrong there. So then that goes to synthetic turf, which is what we're looking at. I think what I'll highlight about synthetic turf, it has great accessibility properties. It's kind of in that medium to high cost range up front, has really low maintenance needs. It is possible to patch it and repair it if something gets damaged with it. It's like carpet, you can replace a piece of carpet. And unlike sports fields, there is no like rubber crumb involved here. In some situations, we might have silica sand used as a ballast in it. There's no rubber crumb element. It's not the same as athletic synthetic turf. Josh, want to go to the next slide? So we did get some initial quotes, just shopping options. Rubber tile, you'll see we have two very different quotes there from two different vendors. The first one would be is the current generation of replacing what we have there. So it's the current version of the product that has failed in 10 years. And then we can get probably a better product, I would say, that would last a little bit longer. And that quote does include demo and disposal of the current tiles, and it's substantially more. And then you can see the pour in place. We only got one quote for that. They're all relatively the same cost, as you can see. But the synthetic turf, again, is the product we're looking at. We did get two prices there. They're pretty similar. Obviously, there's one difference there that's driving that one quote to be higher. So that's where the up to 180 comes from. You can get a general sense of why we're asking for that much money. That's all I have on the. I'll kind of circle back to that, but I'm going to now move on to McKay, unless the committee would prefer to ask any questions about Cricket House. Yeah.
Is it okay if we do that? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, do you have any experience with this type of synthetic turf anywhere else in the city?
No, so Riverfront is intended to be the first rollout of it. I'm going to I'll get into this in my next slides, but earlier this year, park staff, maintenance staff, and myself did our Portland Loo tour. We drove up to Portland and Vancouver and some other cities and looked at how they're using Portland Loos in their park system. We intentionally visited parks that have the Forever Lawn in them, and we visited some parks that have the pour in place rubber in them. Our maintenance staff kind of are really comfortable about the synthetic turf. They think they can handle it, they can maintain it. We saw some really bad pour in place installations, and we are more afraid of using that product than ever. Just to be honest.
Any feedback from the parks people that are using this product?
Yes, everyone says it's there's kind of two things to that. One is we haven't heard any complaints yet. It's also a newer product, generally speaking. So we're looking at relatively new installations. There's also even newer versions of the Forever Lawn product that we're going to look at. We're getting into the weeds, but like have better UV resistant qualities, are maybe just slightly safer. but we still think we're headed in that direction.
Thank you. I think that the newer turfs are less environmentally invasive, that they are improving, but you were talking about the difference between the ball fields turf and this play turf, and maybe you can just help us understand those differences, because I know that some of the new ball fields are really working hard at having the undercover and the material to be really protective of the environment, like as it rains, not leaching plastic that could get into the system. Can you talk about?
Yeah, there's generally two environmental concerns with synthetic turf broadly, and that PFAS is one. And from what I can gather, we're looking at very, very, very low levels of PFAS in these products as they currently are manufactured. I can't get anyone to say there's none. That's difficult to find, and we do a bunch of product testing and maybe not derive at a conclusion, a solid conclusion on that. But that they do look like they are really getting a handle on that. The other one has to do with crumb rubber, which again, that's used in synthetic sport fields. And
That's a little black speck.
little black specks.
They come home with you.
They come home with you,
And
they
get into the water.
They get everywhere.
Face
Your
plant.
dog eats them.
sometimes there's applications that don't use virgin materials, so you're like using something that may have some toxins in it already, and it could be contributing to microplastic pollution. So for Deer Park, another bond project that's being built right now, the city opted to use an alternative to crumb rubber. We're using olive pit ore.
That's the one I would think.
Yeah. But in this scenario, there's no need for rubber. There's only sand. So if you can think of the blades stick up, the fake blades stick up by a person no matter what the application is, by sand. Sand is the first layer, and that's holding it up. And then in sport fields, you add either crumb rubber or whatever else you need at the very top. In playgrounds, there is no need for that topper. It's just either sand, or in some products, there's actually nothing. It's just the synthetic blades.
And you wouldn't be watering this because it's not grass. And so it would only be if there's rain, and potentially if there are some PFAS, the rain that would then be possibly getting that into the draining system, but it would be again in the draining system.
Yes, and at Riverfront, this is an important consideration. We're using mechanical stormwater treatment to treat the runoff before it goes into the Lander River.
Oh, at Riverfront you are.
At Riverfront we will.
And are there opportunities to do that in these other locations that you might be putting in the turf?
We certainly could look at retrofitting, but it would add cost.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Do they pull children on what it's like to play on turf? I've never been to a turf playground. I don't know.
Yeah, all my information is from the sales representatives who are trying to sell some.
I'm just curious what it's like to
Yeah.
fall down
Yeah,
on turf.
yeah.
Or, you know,
9 out of 10 smiling faces.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I think the focus is really on kids who have mobility assistance devices. That's mostly we hear about that.
Mhm.
And we do hear that generally speaking, the pour in the tile and the synthetic turf are the best. The pour in place offers the most impact attenuation properties, so it's like the safest. But in terms of accessibility, the rubber tiles and the synthetic turf seem to be the best. I mean, if you ask one person in a wheelchair what's the best for them, you may get a different answer than the next. So it does seem to be the synthetic turf and the rubber tiles that generally are the most accessible.
Interesting. Again, I just think about falling down. If you face plant on turf, what does that feel like?
I should mention the synthetic turf for playgrounds has a big rubber mat underneath. That's what provides the impact attenuation. And that is actually what we're treating for runoff from, is from that rubber mat.
Got it. Okay. So it's not the actual turf as much as it's the rubber underneath.
Thank you for that. All right.
Thank you, question. I didn't have a chance to talk to Rob before that. So this Bush Park surface is not included in the bond right now.
That's right.
So this would be asking for,
So we would be asking for your support and then ultimately, I believe we'd be going for a mid-year project to city council, assuming Josh says we have bond funds available. That would be the next step.
What is the difference between the active play or the nature play? You know, like there'd be a cost savings there and this is going to be an increase. Can you tell us what that might be and then what is still needed?
So I think, so just to cut to it, I think we could develop a small nature playground at Minto where the playground is for $400,000 or less. I mean, it's gonna be engineered wood fiber, so it won't be as accessible as the Crooked House is. But as you know, what we consider as a nature playground, I'm pretty confident we can get it done.
So if that's the case, then is the savings from that enough to cover this?
Yes, because
That's what I was trying to get.
yes, yeah, because I think we're looking at to like up to 180. And so if you think that there's 10 playgrounds, then you divide the 6 million, so that's $600,000 per playground. So I think I feel comfortable with moving forward with that.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking.
Go ahead.
Taking the bond out of the equation, what was the plan for replacement of the tiles at the Crooked House? Because what I hear you saying is that they're at the end of their early part of it, but they're at the end of their expected life. So
I think
if it wasn't bond funding, what would be the?
I don't think that the city had a long-term plan, like this is how we're gonna pay for this product whenever. I think honestly, we thought we were gonna get 15 years out of it and we have not been thinking about it. Again, it's only one of 2 playgrounds we have with this type of surfacing. So it's not, they're the odd ducks. The majority of our playground are those engineered wood fiber, and we know how to do that pretty well. If the bond committee didn't think this was a good idea and we just had to proceed, we would be looking at an option where we would find what funds we do have and we'd be repairing that tile system. And I just don't feel good about that. I feel like we're just gonna buy ourselves a couple of years. And then we'll still have to do some more investment in it.
How is the other park look? The other park that's using.
Yeah, the other park is Hoodview Park in Northeast Salem. It uses a different product and it's still
Same kind of park.
We did have a problem with the initial installation of it, but since we got that ironed out, it seems to be doing pretty well.
Everything installed roughly at the same time.
I think they were roughly the same.
The usage is probably pretty different.
Hoodview is a very popular neighborhood park. It's always so they're pretty busy.
The bond isn't paid for, that kind of thing would fall back on the general fund.
Yeah.
You know,
Or grants.
Or
which
grants.
We're scrappy about, but the timing
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, but we're very protective of operating funds, so the big plan with this bond program is, to try to put some of these capital projects in the bond. So this one didn't rise to the occasion, I'm not quite sure why, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would have been first in mind for when we try to, renew the bond again, in 6 or 7 years.
Yes, we definitely are going to be thinking about these kind of replacements at that point.
No, I understand. I just was curious. And it kind of answers what I thought was probably the situation. And I was also curious, are there other parks out there that have the same issue? But it sounds like the other ones feel like one. So.
It seems like a kind of a critical, like we need to get this fixed.
That's
Those are
essentially
big-
why I'm here
Those are
today.
big cracks.
Yeah, because those are big cracks and they're getting bigger.
Yeah. And what would the timing be? When would it be installed if we did?
I think it's gonna be, we're gonna be looking at the 2026 construction season generally. I think we'll try to do it as early as possible.
Okay.
So that we don't, what we're trying to avoid is a closure, so we just say it's safe to use.
Right.
And I think we're getting close to that point, so we're trying to go as quick as we can,
Yeah.
but
And this park is popular,
it is.
gets a lot of traffic. So it does seem to rise as a priority spot in my mind. Yeah.
What does the maintenance of that look like?
Artificial turf.
Yeah, of that particular product.
Yes, so-
Without the pelletized stuff.
There's two maintenance activities. One is an occasional sanitation. So, you just need you wash it off essentially.
Yeah.
The other one is to use a leaf blower to blow debris off of it. That's all staff has to do.
And what is that compared to the tile that's there? Was,
The tile is a similar maintenance needs.
okay, so sanitation and obviously debris.
Yes,
Okay.
it's our engineered wood fiber is the one that's maintenance intensive, yeah. That, they have not mentioned that.
What was that, Courtney?
I was just curious about sand, if it's the base, do you ever have to add that? Because that also comes.
A lot of things come to your house. What are your kids doing?
I will say when we visited those other parks, there are newer installations and the sand was unnoticeable. But we didn't know about the sand until our vendors told us about it.
Do they come with some kind of warranty?
The Forever Long Playground Grass product is a 15-year warranty.
What about the tiles that we have now?
The word has expired.
We learn as we go.
Do you need a decision today, Rob, or?
I think I'm looking just support to move forward. If Josh, I don't know if you think we need to take a formal action.
I think that would be helpful, if we have a council item, it'd be nice if it came from the group as opposed to staff, if that's.
And so the way it sounds like though, is you're not asking for more money, you're just asking for flexibility within the bucket.
Mhm. That's
Like,
right.
Well, I'm all in favor.
Yeah, I feel that you're gonna have issues with accessibility anyway down at Mental Brown, that park and the pathway. So turning it into a nature and doing it for less money with the ability to change some of these other parks to a more accessible and easily maintained thing. So I would second whatever the motion is stated. However, it should be stated. I'm not sure if you have, anyone has it. Josh, maybe you would be the one. I move to direct staff to allocate funding as necessary for the change in the park structures.
I'd second that.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, I was.
Any further discussion about it?
I'd just like to hear if it comes in, you said you're gonna continue to look at products, if it's gonna be significantly more than what you've estimated. But otherwise, yeah.
I think the cap I put out there is 180. If it's over 180, we'll come back.
Okay, so we're moving to take this to council or we're moving to get this done?
Moving to take it to council. When we add we have to actually have council approving when we're adding a project.
Perfect. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do this.
And wait for the questions from council.
Right.
What do you call what's the measurement of like safety that you kept referring to?
Impact attenuation.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say we have a playground safety program at parks, and so we have staff that are certified playground safety inspectors, and maybe I'll bring one of them with me, so I got because they actually know what they're talking about. I'm just pretending.
I'm gonna bring my drink.
Yeah, which scale?
Okay. I'm gonna switch gears to McKay Park if that's okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Just gonna run down my bullet points. The construction documents are advancing to permitting. We're getting really far into this project, so it's well over time to check in with the committee. The goal is to start work on the project at McKay as soon as the Gear soccer fields reopen. These two, those are soccer fields in that image. It's a really bad image, and that's why I picked it. But as soon as the soccer fields at Gear are able to reopen this spring, we would like to be in a position where we can have a contractor take these fields offline. The project features right now 2 Portland loos, but those 2 asterisks there are a reminder to me to say that we are not planning to install the Portland loos next summer. That it was a cognizant choice we made to delay actually installing them until we had the ability to clean them and operate them. So we are simply preparing the pads and the utility connections to them. However, we need to know at this point if they're going to be Portland loos, because they're going to be very specific setups for them. We are also looking at adding a food truck hookup with the reservable picnic shelter. The reservable picnic shelter was in the bond very clearly. It's relatively inexpensive to add food truck hookups to a nearby location because we're going to be bringing electric and water to the actual shelter. But staff sees this as an opportunity to just provide more flexibility in how the reservable shelter could be used for events and kind of positive activities in the park. And so that's why we're suggesting it. Another thing we're doing that isn't completely in line with the bond language is that we're accomplishing a TSP project, and I want to talk about that. McKay Park is in the middle of kind of a super block between Silverton Road to the north and Sunny View. Sunny Slope.
Wrong.
View.
Sunny
View.
Sunny to the south, and it's a really long block. And if you're a pedestrian or a bicyclist, the opportunity you have to cut through midway is McKay Park. And so the TSP project is a multi-use path just running right across those two street ends there. And so to the extent we can, we're attempting to accomplish that with this project. I'm not here to ask for more money, but I want to flag that we're having some budget management challenges. The total project budget is a little under 2.5 million. We need a complete new power service to the park. We have to run, work with PGE to install a new transformer, a new electrical run, and that's all needed to run an irrigation controller and to support the future bathrooms. And that's a significant cost that wasn't necessarily reflected in the budget and when it was initially developed. The park needs a new backflow preventer, a new irrigation controller, new water meters. And so we have a pretty big amount of money being set aside just alone for irrigation on the project is pretty substantial. And all the paving we're going to be doing to try to accommodate that multi-use path is also a significant chunk of money. We're working on dialing those numbers in, getting our pencils out and making sure that we have a good feel on all the costs and where the budget stands. So again, we're not asking for more money, but we are definitely tight.
As we get closer to finalizing the numbers prior to bid, we, like other projects in the bond, we might come back to this group and say, hey, looks like we're close. Do we want to wait for potentially good bid results and then wait and see where we are? Or depending on what that budget number looks like, we might say, oh, hey, this project, in order to do what we want to do, we need to supplement the funding. So like Rob said, we're not at a position yet to know that, but we wanted to bring it to your attention.
Is Portland Lou a brand name?
It is a specific, I have a slide on it. A general term would be a sidewalk restroom. And there are definitely more than one product vendors in Oregon that make them. There's another vendor outside of Roseburg that makes another product. We've looked at them both and we're leaning toward the Portland Lou.
And what do they cost?
They are per unit around $80,000. That you have to provide the utility hookups. As there are some additional costs, but for this situation, there's a very convenient sewer line that was installed with the additional park. And so some of those costs are significantly less to get this specific location.
Are they less expensive than, building a traditional concrete?
They're significantly less expensive than the brick and mortar. The most recent restroom we developed would be the North restroom at Riverfront. And so on a per stall basis, this is significantly cheaper. Josh, want to go to the next slide? I'm just going to give just all the things the project includes. I'll go pretty quickly here. We are regrading the soccer fields, and with that, we're putting in a completely new. I'm not going to necessarily go and, well, I will. So number one, if you can find number one, there's existing BART chip paths. We're not touching those. We're just acknowledging they're there. Proposed emergency event vehicle access with folding bollards. So we're with the multi-use path. It's a wider walkway, right? So we're going to be making it something a vehicle can drive on. And we're also going to control access to the park. So there are going to be bollards that will be folding down. We have some gravel pedestrian paths, again, in the park that we're not touching. We're just noting them there. Oh, no, the specific proposed. So that's on the far west end of the park, we just need a way to get pedestrians out to the county street. The county street does not have sidewalks, so we don't really know what the future is for that street, so but we're just providing essentially a temporary access. We have some new 6-foot walkways. We're adding lots of trees after we remove the old playground facilities that don't look great. I'm just gonna go through here. Picnic shelter, so the picnic shelter is that dark green square in the middle there. And that orange object next to it would be that food truck to conceptualize the food truck pickups. So we're creating a plaza there with a picnic shelter that's big enough for 6 picnic tables. And you know, it was kind of central to the park with lots of good sight lines into it. The restrooms will be relatively close, so we're thinking it would attract use. Certainly use associated with, I think one of the biggest activities in the parking lot is soccer. And with the soccer fields, we are regrading the soccer fields and adding complete new sub drainage and new irrigation systems, similar to what we're doing at Kier. And then if you can see number 13, I have another slide that's a zoom in, but that's the Portland Loo location. So we're proposing 2 of the sidewalk restrooms at that location. It is where the chemical toilets are currently located. And there's just a zoom in, if you can just get a sense of the spatial arrangement there. The shelter, the precedent for that one, it would be our River Road Park shelter. This one is for 8 picnic tables. The one we're doing at McKay is for 6. So it's still a substantially large picnic shelter. It's just not quite as big as the one at River Road. Okay, Portland Loos. Why the Portland Loos? So I'm going to start there on the right. So that's a photo of Easter Short Park in Vancouver, Washington. That's their downtown park. And there are 3 Portland Loos, and you can see this blue light. That's a little odd color. That gets at all the design considerations that the Portland Loo has that have to do with discouraging unwanted behavior. The blue light is a feature that allows people to have light. They can see what they're doing in there, but they can't see their veins. And so they can't inject themselves inside of the units. During the daytime, that feature is not in play. So typically Portland Loos come with sharps containers. So that's like an option we can get for them. But you can also get baby changing tables. You can get all the normal kind of features that you would see in a public restroom. You can get in a
Amenities.
amenities, yes. Why they're attractive to us? They're easy to clean. Our park staff can get in there. They have a touch-free cleaning system that they really feel confident goes well with the Portland Loo, and that's an effective use of their time and gets the restroom cleaned. It has a lot of vandalism resistant features to it. But we will be pushing the vendor to kind of customize a model specific to us. It has this door on the front, for example. And our maintenance staff are saying, if that wasn't curved, if it was somehow a flat door, we feel much more comfortable with that because we could probably manufacture a replacement door if we had to. So that's the detail we're getting into as we move ahead.
Does it lock?
Yes, there's locks on them. There's an option for automatic locks that we want to understand better, so that the bathrooms could automatically lock. They're designed to be open 24 hours a day, but in some cities that doesn't work. And so we're going to be exploring the automatic locking doorknob. Generally speaking, it strikes us as the right balance between giving the user adequate privacy for what they need to do while balancing that with public safety. You can see if there's someone in it. It's open on the bottom and it's open at the top. And we're seeing it increasing as a proven model. I lived to our 2005 Loo tour, and you can see our stops there. We went to the Vancouver waterfront where there are 2, Easter Shores Park, which is photoed there. Marshall Community Park, I had a photo of that. That was one of my examples with the Forever Lawn. They just installed 3 there. And then we went to Cully Park, which is a community park in Portland, in Northeast Portland near the airport. It's about 8 years old. It's a newer community park. So the Portland Loos are about 8 years old. And we were pleasantly surprised that they didn't seem they seem to be relatively undamaged. They're kind of still looking pretty brand new. And on that day, we greatly increased our comfortability with this as a, in terms of staff, as a solution for our park system. And that's the end of my presentation. So again, we've already covered the Cricket House, but today I just say if there's any feedback on the McKay Park improvements, it'd be great to hear them. The further we get in through design, the more difficult changes are to make.
We go back to the.
Yeah, any questions? Or I can go through this a little bit. I can stand up and go through it a little bit more.
Can you go back one more slide? I think where's the, yeah, here. So on the budget management challenges, the ones that are approximations, are those new things or those are things that we
Those are,
had already kind of included in the scope of the project as original?
yeah, so it's they're kind of new things. I don't know if we probably put in some contingency, but we didn't put in $100,000 for the power service. We didn't realize we needed power service. I don't think when the first budget that went into the bond, I don't think we were thinking we would try to accomplish the TSP project, but it just seems like this is a great opportunity to do that. The new and just I just want to, you know, a backflow preventer, that's something you need to make sure that the water and irrigation system doesn't get cross-contaminated in a potable water line. That's a substantial costly thing. If it was just that we had to replace, that'd be fine, but it's also the irrigation controller. Irrigation controller is very expensive for a park like this. And then also water meters. So again, one of those by themselves would be probably no big deal. But my point is that all those things need to be replaced.
Are there any supply chain issues on those kind of parts and pieces? Any delays expected?
The one that pops into my mind, and we're certainly trying to be all over, is the transformer for the new power service.
And PG&E sometimes has a pretty long leads to get this type of it. So,
Did you say long lead?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, we install the conduit, but then they actually pull the wire. They pull the wires. So we're contingent on them working on our timeline.
Okay. Is where the food truck's gonna be, and I speak from experience, will this be 50 amp?
I believe it would be a 50 amps connection, yeah.
Be my suggestion.
Yes.
When it's not, it's a problem.
We just, not as opposed to a 30 amp.
Yes.
Yeah. We 2 days ago, we had a discussion about needing to seal the concrete because there'd be food stains.
Mm-hmm.
So we would think about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Are the cost of the Portland loos included in that 2.5 million?
Yes, yeah, we're carrying that as part of the project.
So not installing right away, but you have the funds.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're getting into we're just starting to get into some very detailed discussions about what specifically would be Salem's version of Portland Loop. For example.
A Salem
Sure, maybe.
That would be a slew.
Oh.
Then there's an option where you can get a hand washing station on the outside that just shoots a little bit of water, and there's actually a drain on the floor. Our park staff is not thrilled about that. I guess in our other parks, we're moving to just hand sanitizer. That's all we're offering, and then that's what they would like to do here. So we'll be hashing that out.
So there wouldn't be a faucet.
There wouldn't be a faucet. That's right.
Which oftentimes does cause issues.
Yes, so there would be an alcohol-free hand sanitizer.
Mm-hmm.
There are, just as a reminder, Bush Park is supposed to have some new bathrooms, restrooms with the bond.
Cascade Gateway.
Cascade Gateway.
Wallace Marine Park.
Wallace Marine Park. This one in McKay, it might be
Northgate is getting new restrooms.
So there are other parks that are, you know, a little further down the schedule, and so we'd be curious, you know,
See how it works.
are we gonna, it's a standard we want to start to implement? And
So if we imagined a brick and mortar restroom, we're potentially saving money by altering the package to go with the Portland Loop. Right? So how does it balance? It's hard to understand where the overages are, and it's hard to understand exactly where the cost gains and as.
Yes, yeah, Courtney, that's a good point. So if we were looking at a brick and mortar building, we would be more over budget. We would potentially be over budget. Because of the other cost of everything else.
I'll imagine you're also worried about maintenance from the brick and mortar that we've had currently. They've been giving us headache.
Yeah, before you leave, I think you probably got another meeting.
I do,
to get
yeah,
to.
go ahead.
Just, do we have any restroom data? Like, what is the current inventory in our parks and how is it going? Do
We have,
we,
I can address that. We have 10 parks with brick and mortar restrooms. That does include Wallace Marine Park and Cascade Gateway where those restrooms are not operational. We have several parks with multiple restrooms. That would be Riverfront, Bush, and Wallace. I think we have approximately 6 additional parks where we have chemical toilets available, either seasonally or year round.
yeah, and they're not, those that aren't functional because,
Of vandalism.
okay, so how, I guess I'm just curious. I would like to know more about that. Just, if it's just me, fine, email me the info. Because I feel like we've got some money to work with and we want to make these new things, but will they be able to remain safe for the public? And will they, can we afford to maintain them? And what will the 24-hour period look like? Will they be locked from X to X? And what's that gonna take? Is that, do my questions make sense?
Will they remain safe? What, like, how good are they at handling vandalism or preventing vandalism? What's the cost to maintain? Are they affordable to maintain? And what does that 24-hour period look like? When would they be locked or not locked? And we take that question perhaps in comparison, Lou, older brick and mortar chemical toilets, so that you have an understanding. Does that sound right?
And what are we dealing with right now? And what's that picture look like? Like death, is missing. We're making choices without a lot of information.
So I've done a lot of research on mostly on the toilets. There's other brands. Portland Loo is a very good cost model. And there are several that have systems in place that prevent anyone from staying in them for any length of time. But because water is sprayed, so it's not where people would
Want to hang out?
would camp. But some of those cost more. But the system, as Rob was explaining, even the Portland Loo have options of locking mechanisms that can be adjusted so that if the restrooms might be needed from 6 a.m. until 12 midnight, you can have that system in place and you don't have to physically go and lock. They'll do it electronically. And so all those things help prevent the maintenance issues where you don't have to have a staff person. Right now, the bathrooms, the brick and mortar bathrooms are really problematic for even just the park users or visitors because they oftentimes don't get opened until late in the morning and they're closed up early and you might be there at a time and you don't have any facilities. That's why the portable toilets are there, but then those are not always stocked and really friendly to use. So Salem has a bathroom problem.
Yep.
And that I don't know of any public bathrooms at all, except in the parks. If you go to visit any other city, there's public bathrooms. It becomes a chore of what is maintenance? How do you care for it? And how do you avoid the users that are not caring for it, that are there to either camp or do things that they shouldn't be doing and it causing problems in the sink or things like that.
As your side was up and you had visited those locations, I thought, I wonder what that neighborhood's like. Maybe it's new. Maybe these are folks that aren't, running around causing problems.
I would say that we visit lots of spots, and so we saw a spectrum. The Coley Park in Northeast Salem was very urban.
Portland.
In Portland, yeah. In Vancouver, we did the waterfront and their downtown park. Those are very urban environments. It renewed really lots of really cool new buildings. But there was still quite a diverse socioeconomic spectrum around. And again, they seem to be holding up pretty well.
All right. Anything else?
So I'm hearing that you might want us to come back with some information just about restrooms, especially before we get into the other replacements or new ones. Just have a more holistic conversation. Does that sound
Sounds
okay?
good to me. Anybody else?
Rob, you mentioned we're getting further in design to where we need to make a decision whether we're gonna go down the right path or the left path because it changes the configuration. What does that time frame look like where we have to like go, no go on either a loop or?
I think today we would need to know if we should pause on the loo, because we're heading into permitting and I don't, we don't want to pay the design team to do something twice. So if generally if we were okay proceeding, that'd be good to know, but we have more questions about details and when they get installed. So when we install them is up in the air. The details of how the Portland Loo is actually configured is still up in the air. But if the decision is are we going to go toward more of a sidewalk restroom or not, we need to know now.
Yes. Can you tell me, I know that we've discussed a little bit, I had researched the Urban Blue model, which is a different model. And I think that you had also researched some, I don't know what the models were, that were more moist. You said that they are oftentimes because of the control of for misuse, that they were oftentimes too moist. The question I have is, do you know if the infrastructure that you would need for a sidewalk restroom, whether it be Portland Loo or another one, would they be different just because of the design of them? So you really have to know what model or what brand you're using to be able to make sure the infrastructure is in place. And then that would mean you want to make sure that you're using one that you could buy again, should you need to.
Yes, I think that our approach here is that we're trying to next summer get all the infrastructure work done. And so that when it's time to put the restrooms in, it's really that they come on a truck, there's a crane, the train puts them in, you hook up the utilities and it's done. And then we don't have to pay another contractor to mobilize and do more work. And so again, just being as efficient we can with the funds we have.
Yeah.
That's the intent. I mean, if we certainly could break the project into pieces, it was just. It would just add costs.
Our goal was to be able to build something that was ready for installation.
For installation.
At a future date. Yeah, and we could figure out, when at a later date, we could figure out operational hours at a later date. We could certainly figure out, part of that is the maintenance that goes along to, can we afford maintenance, and that drives when we can actually put those units in. But I think, if I can speak on Parks' behalf, I think what you guys are kind of realizing is the traditional model for a bathroom is not working.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity to introduce something that's shows to be proven in other municipalities, and so this is an attempt to try that.
Yeah, our maintenance staff is very vocal to me about the newest restroom we have at Riverfront and how much repair work and how all their difficulties they have there.
Yeah.
And that's really where this started. That and I was like, well, let's go look at Portland Loos, and that's how this.
Not to mention all the Wallace and Cascade that are closed because
That's right.
of
And I would say
same issue.
West Salem Park is a neighborhood park with a restroom that is in really rough shape. And so that it's not, at some point in the not too distant future, there will be a decision point where they're going to demolish it and not have a restroom at that park, or we're gonna have to figure out something else, or it will just be another closed restroom.
And that group has already been pretty vocal about wanting a new restroom.
Yes.
You said it a couple times, like afford to maintain it. What do you mean there? Is it staffing or is there an actual ongoing contract cost to maintain it?
Oh, so there's kind of so cleaning it, just having staff to clean it. But the West Salem one is actually just it's well over it's kind of useful life. It's just starting to physically fall apart.
But yeah, it's the cleaning, and then it's dealing with the maintenance after it's been vandalized.
Oh, yeah, at Riverfront Park specifically, it's not about cleaning it, it's about repairing the vandalism. The doors being broken, you know,
Sinks.
we can't, if you, once, you know, there's 8 units, I don't think we've had a moment where all 8 are up and running. Or, well, at least one is down because of a repair.
So it sounds like today's question is, does anyone see that they would propose that we implement something like at Riverfront or nothing, I suppose? Or maybe you can't do nothing, you're not gonna do chemis there. So
Right.
I think it's probably supportive of piloting
I
this
am.
different bathroom approach. And that's probably the question
Yeah.
to clarify today.
I personally am, I think we've got to do something. And we can, I hate to use the word pilot, because that makes it a thing, I think. or
Sure,
something,
but try it, try this new model.
Yeah, let's try it. My ask would be that we do everything possible to ensure public safety. And that, whatever that looks like in terms of design or what we land with. And maybe we'll come up with something that works well.
Copy.
Yeah, so I say,
I appreciate that you've, because I brought this to Brian's attention, been a year and a half that I brought the idea of Portland Lou, and so I really appreciate you looking into it and seeing the advantages that it may have.
I just can't believe we've come up with lighting that helps people not see their veins.
And I like the features of the top and the bottom spacing too. I think that's another safety feature.
Interesting. Okay, anything further on that? No,
Thank you.
thank you for all your hard work and effort, everybody.
I have one bit of good news. It's not on the agenda, but we are nearing the conclusion of our last 2 sports courts projects. Through 3. That's right.
Morningside.
Morningside Highland. I
Highland,
forgot Highland.
yeah.
So we had 2 last summer. We're doing 3 this summer. So that'll conclude the sports court program as part of the bond. So we're pretty excited about being able to say that we've finished that portion of it.
Those will all be then ready for next year, for next summer.
Yeah,
That would be-
potentially be ready in the next week or 2.
Yeah, I expect they're gonna
Fall,
fall, they're
okay.
gonna open in September. I
Right.
can't imagine they're not gonna be open by the end of September.
All right, that's wonderful.
Are there signs on each of those saying thank you voters?
Absolutely.
Are we doing any communication about it?
We're in the works, it's in the works. We had that conversation
Thanks
by
for
different
thinking
county.
about
It's with the engineers right now.
I mentioned it to James.
I will say that Hoover Park has some really cool new sports equipment. We're
That's great.
having a hard time even keeping kids out of, so the sooner we can open it, the
It's
better.
gonna be a soft opening, right?
Yeah. It's already showing very soon.
Thing is that people are already using it, so it's open.
You're thinking about an event though,
I think,
down the road, right?
yeah, events, we're really thinking about the spring for events, because it's good. By the time we invite folks and get organized, we'll be looking at a pretty wet time of year, and we wanna have everything looking really good, all the grass green, and so I think we're looking at a spring.
One more question about McKay. How long will it take before we start to see some action, not on the restroom necessarily, but even the soccer fields and that?
We're trying real hard to go out and bid in the next few months. So that we can get the contractor all lined up and that they can then start as 2 things, as soon as they feel comfortable in this, you know, in terms of the site conditions, how wet it is, but also that we want to make sure we have at least 2 soccer fields available, so gear has to kind of be in a shape where it can reopen. And then we'll feel really comfortable that we can take the McKay ones offline. So spring, we're hoping to start in
Good.
spring.
I would say late spring or summer construction,
Okay. Great.
so the grass can take it.
Mike?
This is, if we're done with that, this is a question for Josh. In our cycle of annual meetings, is there a point in the cycle where we kind of get a snapshot of where we're at overall, like the forest for the trees here? I keep thinking every time we talk about a project, it's, well, we've saved this and so we want to spend it here, but I don't track all that stuff. So I'm curious, where we are in terms of our bond sales, what we've, if we've got X millions in the fire department bucket, and it was for these projects, and they said they saved this here, so we spent it here, sort of where are we at in each one of those buckets, at some point to get a snapshot of, you know,
We've been talking probably this fall, you know, October, November, somewhere in there. The next bond sale is gonna be next spring, you know, so that's what we're really trying to make sure we have our ducks in a row. We understand cash going out and upcoming projects, because we wanna be able to tell, you know, with that bond issuance, hey, we're gonna meet our obligation, spend it on time. So that's something we're looking at for probably October, November.
Okay. So I think there's a story to tell there too, right? There's a big story there.
I haven't been here in a little while.
But I think it would be helpful for me
Yeah.
to feel like I'm,
Absolutely.
to feel like I'm doing my responsibility here to know like where are
Yeah,
we.
And to be able to talk about it with your friends
Yes,
and neighbors,
Yes.
because like, I don't know if I've missed 2 of these. And it's, you guys are getting a lot done, but I wouldn't know if it wasn't in this room.
And then all I do is I go back, I say, yeah, they're working on it. They're working on it.
10-year bond.
that's a year 9 project.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's gonna be in
You're not.
29. 20s, no, 31.
One of my favorite things to notice out loud is that like by the time we get to doing things, it's a totally different constituent, right?
Yes.
So the people that
Yes.
contributed to this vision aren't, it'll be a surprise to them. Because they're gone or they've forgotten. We had that
Forgotten.
experience downtown
Mhm.
when we 2A'd a couple streets and people were like, why are you raising money on this? Well, because 10 years ago you said you wanted this. And I worry about some of the, like, there are people in our community who may or may not be aware that we've even voted on the bond and we're doing all these things. So it just needs to be more constant in conversation because it's new people who are entering and leaving the conversation all the time.
And a good chance to remind them how and what the bond gets used for.
Yeah.
Cause that gets lost, like.
Well, and the pride that we chose to do this together, like that's pretty cool.
So true.
Love it. Anything else? Thank you, everyone. Nothing further, we are adjourned.